This episode of the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast is brought to you by Kent Optometry, where seeing clearly is optional and hiding in plain sight is a guarantee. Let's be honest here. If you and I were in a superhero movie, which one of us would be the villain?
Oh, probably me.
Yeah, because you correct people's grammar all the time.
Yeah, no, I do. It probably would be me, and that would probably be one of my superpowers. Correcting
Grammar
grammar.
man.
I also feel like I would be the person, because I know I do this to people, and nobody's ever said anything, but I feel like it's annoying people. Is if you've ever seen the show The Office, Oscar Nunez in that show is the
You are actually.
Actually, it's blah, 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 blah. Now, listen, this is not. I'm not trying to like humble brag, but I have a lot of like random knowledge. Yeah, I read a lot. I look up a lot of things, so I have a lot of random things that you wouldn't expect necessarily. So I definitely do that. Actually, thing. I'd be actually man.
All right, Captain Actually. You want to kick off this episode?
Doctor Actually.
Doctor Actually.
Actually, I would like to kick off this episode.
Hit it.
So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to another exciting, dynamic, provincial episode of the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast, where comics and Christ culture collide. I am host number 1 this time, Chris.
I am host number 2 this time, Joey.
And we are here to talk about the godfather of all superhero movies.
Nice. I see what you did there. That was pretty good.
I'm doing what I can.
How you doing today, other than the fact that we just spent 20 minutes trying to talk to each other?
Well, it's one of those things where, it's the universe being against you kind of thing. When as of recording today, I at least have a very finite schedule. So it was a very specific amount of time we could do it. And then that's when it decides, for no reason other than a big screw you, to not work. So yeah, that's super fun when that happens.
Sometimes the universe is against us. But today, before we dive into our movie, we're going to talk about a comic culture moment, which is the reboot cycle. It happened left, right, and center. It is happening more often than not, and I want to talk about it. So, Chris, why do you think that we are constantly in this cycle, this phase of just, it's been 5 years, let's reboot the franchise, Does it take away from the original iteration? When is it better than the other? What are some of your thoughts?
I would say let's answer the first question. What is the reason we reboot it? The main reason is money. The studios, the producers, the companies that are behind any of these reboots, they want to make more money. And I understand that, but as just a consumer, it gets a little, exhausting. Now, reboots are not just a comic book movie thing, although that does happen a lot, especially when a movie doesn't go the direction they want or doesn't have the success that they want. They want to retell it with a new cast, a new lens, a new writer, all those things. But, we've seen reboots and soft reboots in things like Jurassic Park / Jurassic World. We've seen it with the entirety of the Transformers franchise. We see it with comic book and superhero movies all the time. I think that aside from money, people just want a fresh take. They want a fresh viewpoint of it. But I don't always think that's needed because, leading into your other question, does it hurt the original? Does it hurt the original? No, because the original is still there. You know what I mean? If
True.
if I decide to see the reboot of a movie and I have a deep love for the original, I don't ever have to watch that again. And the original, it doesn't erase what was already there, you know. So it's I can always go back and just watch the thing that I love instead. But I think that it can become, again, and I think this ends up being a lot of our points sometimes with some of these culture moments. It ends up being more difficult, I think, for the uninitiated to want to be interested because it's like, I don't want to watch another Superman movie, another Batman movie, another Spider-Man movie. You know, so I get that it can also be, where do you begin? Where do you have to start? Do I need to bother with some of this? So, but what are some of your thoughts on reboots? I don't
Yeah,
mind them that much, but
I've started rethinking it with my own kids in that, I was a child when I first experienced Star Wars. And there was magic and beauty and imagination that came out of it. There was a love for the IP, and I just fell so hard into the world. I don't
okay.
know if I would have done that when I was a teenager, but because I was young, it worked. And I think that has to account for something as we reboot things and we're constantly thinking of the younger generation. If we have this pay it forward mentality as nerds, as geeks, that there has to be a fresh encounter with the IP for the next generation. Like there has to be their version of what we experienced, then I'm okay with reboots because it does something for the next generation. Not necessarily going to do something for me, although I like that they're keeping fresh with the same character. At the same time, I think it does speak to the character that they can consistently just reboot and tell the story and dive into the world again and again and again. That says something long lasting about the actual character we're diving into, because there's different facets that you can go into, right? So, I used to sort of have this don't touch my original candy, like that's mine. Why did you have to redo it? It's just about money. But if you change it to, what are we giving the next generation? And the fact that these are really good characters who can withstand a reboot, then I'm okay with it.
But I think just because they can, potentially withstand it, do they need it is the thing. Like, why, if you did it right the first time, or even, we'll take a character like Superman or Batman, because there have been several reboots
Right.
of those, different film series. Now, if you watch the 66 Batman versus the Burton Batman versus the Dark Knight Batman versus the DCEU Snyder Batman, those are all very different iterations of Batman. They look different, they're all Batman, but they all kind of feel a little different. But if in the middle somewhere you think that one of those did it perfectly, why wouldn't you just want to show your kids that one? Like, you don't even need to bother with the other ones if you don't, unless you want them to discover it on their own. But why would they need their own version of Batman or Superman when in, 1990 whatever or 2000 whatever, they nailed it with this one. So this should be the gold standard, and I'll show you this one when you're ready to, know the character. Because, you brought up Star Wars. Now, I'm not of this mind, but people have said that, like, when they introduce Star Wars to their kids or their grandkids or whatever, only the original trilogy. But then, a lot of our generation would, I've seen people lean towards, like, well, you got to start with the prequels because those were my childhood Star Wars. Well, now you have a whole new generation of the sequel trilogy, and that's their Star Wars. But like if they did it right the first time, why do we? Now, Star Wars is a little different, but I just feel like
Yeah, all of
yes,
that. Like the Star Wars thing is different because you're hopping into different points in the timeline.
it's a
But
complete
with
story,
Batman,
whether or
and
not you like it. But
right, and with Batman, you sort of have to say, are we telling the same story over again? I think that's what really qualifies as a reboot. Spider-Man is there's Toby's story, and then Andrew's story is the same story,
right,
different villain. That's a reboot. Holland, not really a reboot. It's just introducing the character in a different way.
I would say
But
it wasn't a reboot in Civil War, but it was a reboot with Spider-Man: Homecoming because it's young Peter Parker again. Now
yeah,
we didn't see the origin, but we saw the evolution.
yes,
You know, we saw
yeah.
from the homemade costume to the high-tech costume to becoming an experienced crime fighter. So it's essentially the same story, but if you're of the mind that, Toby nailed it, so why would you push for a reboot if you feel like the first one did it so great? Just stick
Well,
with that one.
because okay, so change the medium, right? Like say it's a song. You've got
Mhm.
Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence. Absolutely
Right.
beautiful. You play that on the acoustic guitar and you've got the very 60s, 70s sounding orchestration behind it. Beautiful. Then you've got Disturbed's take on it, which was the 90s or the early 2000s, and that's haunting.
Hmm.
But absolutely beautiful. Then you've got Pentatonic's version of it that came out a couple years ago, and they floored it. It's not about which one did it the best. It's about that the art still stands as a piece worth giving a perspective on. And I think
Okay.
the characters are sort of the same way. That, to the earlier point, like these characters are still worth talking about. So is there another way that we could talk about it? Is there another perspective? Like, Adam West is Adam West. That was 60s Batman, period. He nailed it. But then Burton comes along and says, actually, this is a really dark character. And then Nolan comes around and says, this is a really relatable character. And then Snyder says, actually, this is both. And so, it's not really a reboot in like, I just want to make money. This is such a compelling IP. How can I do it justice from my perspective? And I think if we're looking at art in that way, that's when a reboot is completely justified.
Okay, so then I feel like the standard needs to be that you do something different with it.
Yes.
So if Disturbed had just done, note for note, shot for shot, The Sound of Silence, and then Pentatonics brought in an acoustic guitar, and the only thing they changed was they had five singers instead of one singer, I feel like that would not have. It's like you didn't do anything different with it. You didn't make it your own. It doesn't sound like Pentatonics. It doesn't sound like
Exactly.
Disturbed. It just sounds like a cleaner version, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think the problem with something like Transformers is that after the original three, they didn't do anything different. They looked the same, they sounded the same. You just had a new human counterpart to the Autobots. So I guess if you look at if you take someone like Batman and you look at the different perspectives of the writer and the directors, I can see that, and I think the song analogy um is a great analogy. But again, it's you have to do something different. If you just are rehashing the same thing, then what's the point? You already had one that worked.
And I
Why
think that's what's
why
going
you
to be
messing with it?
interesting in August when this new Superman comes out. We've got what we're talking about today from 78. We've got Smallville. We've got Man of Steel. We've got Superman Returns. We've got Superman 2, 3, and 4. We've got Justice League. We've got so many different versions of this
Mhm.
character. Can Gunn approach this in a way that feels nostalgic, but also is fresh enough for the next generation to go to an opening weekend theater and say, I remember seeing a man who could fly. Like that's what's really important to me. Not can you tell the Reeve story or the Cavill story or no. Like leave those alone. Can you approach the IP for the next generation to say that was worth my time?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope
W-
so,
We'll
but
find out.
I don't know. Again, it has to be something really new in order to do that. It has to feel new, and I think it can.
Yeah.
Based on the short trailer we saw, I think it has the potential to look different, but if it's just going to be exactly what Cavill did and exactly what Reeve did, then I saw that and I liked it. So
Yep.
why do I need it again with a new face?
To quote Cavill, it means hope.
Does it?
It
Oh,
it does. It does. With that in mind, I've got a plot synopsis for this film, and I'm ready to share it with you.
well, before you share that, if you have any feelings about reboots and you're out there on the interwebs, please let us know. Do you like reboots? Are they unnecessary? Do you have a favorite reboot? And also, what reboot did it better than the original?
That's a
That's the
good
big
question.
question. Which reboot is best? And should they have continued if they did after that?
The best boots of all the boots.
Do you have, before you jump into the plot synopsis, do you have a favorite Superman actor, TV or movie?
Hmm. I think it's Cavill,
Hmm.
but what you're asking is not clear. Are you asking which one does both roles the best? Which Superman actor is better, or which Clark Kent actor is better? Because I have feelings on all of that.
I do. Well, I have that same kind of feeling about Spider-Man. So,
Yes.
who embodied? I think the dual personality is important. So, I think who did both best?
Oh, that's Reeve, hands down.
Yeah, I would say Reeve. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's, 90% of my good stuff. But let me give a plot synopsis
All
before we
right, go
get
ahead.
there.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Cue uplifting music.
Da, 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 da.
Here we go. After Krypton goes kaboom, baby Kal-El is rocketed to Earth because his dad is relying on the space foster care system after failing at his ESG goals. Cal crash lands in Kansas, say that 10 times fast, where he is then found by Jonathan and Martha Kent. They raise him like any good Midwestern couple would, with lots of chores, zero questions about his laser eyes, and an unshakable belief that flannel solves everything. Now grown and rocking glasses as the world's worst disguise, Clark Kent works at the Daily Planet, hopelessly crushing on Lois Lane. Overworked, overcaffeinated, and over her head, as she doesn't realize the difference between Clark and Superman is posture. But trouble brews faster than Lois's triple espresso. In the lack of light lurks Lex Luthor. Say that 10 times fast. A criminal mastermind with the charm of a used car salesman and the ambition of a Bond villain. He's bold, bald, brilliant, and bonkers. Say that 10 times fast. And he's decided the best way to get attention is to launch not one, but two missiles. Because if you're going to be evil, go big or go home. Now it's up to Superman to save the day, sweep his hair, and hope not to get caught in a changing phone booth. Will he foil Lex's plan in time? Will Lois ever connect the dots? And will we, the audience, discover the difference between a bird, a plane, and an alien in spandex? All of these questions and more at 10 times the speed, as even you will believe that a man can fly in the Richard Donner 1978 classic, Superman. Dun, dun, dun.
Nicely done. I sense a theme of alliteration here.
Going for it.
With the B's, the L's, and I forget what the first letter collection was.
The K's.
The K is the K and
Yep.
C sound. Yeah.
I was going for it. I put a little effort
good.
into some of that.
No, you absolutely went for it. And we are covering Superman the movie from 1978, and it stars Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder, Marlon Brando, and as we said, is directed by Richard Donner, who also went on to direct movies like Lethal Weapon, Superman 2, The Goonies, so some other great.
Did he do Blade Runner?
Did he do Blade Runner?
I'm gonna check.
Check right now because I don't I'm not 100% sure.
No, that's Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. You know what? Because we said
Silly
Richard,
Joey.
I was like, R sounds right, but Richard Donner didn't sound right. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I hedged.
Oh well. My tongue needs a break from all the alliteration. Why don't you kick off some good stuff?
I will kick off some good stuff. I don't have a lot, so you won't have much
How
of a
dare
break.
you?
All right, first two
Oh,
big things. First two big good things. Um, it set the standard. It was the first of its kind.
amen.
It was a blockbuster movie. Before that, most of the superhero, if not all the superhero stuff that we had was either reels. What are they called? Like the little short reels that they would show before the actual movie.
Commercials?
No, 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 no. It was like telling a story in like 6 5-minute episodes, and they would. I'll think of the word. It'll come to me halfway through. But it was like
Okay.
little mini episodes, or it was animation, or something like Batman 66, where it was a campy
Yeah.
TV show. So this was the first big budget. It was the most successful movie at the time. At when it came out, it was made the most money ever for when it was and what it was.
Which was December 15th, 1978.
It's a Christmas movie.
I was gonna say that, but
Yay. Just based on when it came out. It has nothing to do with the time period or the plot of the movie itself.
exactly. Breaking the rules.
As far as also setting the standard, Christopher Reeve set the standard for
come
Superman
on.
and Clark. He just so completely embodied both characters so
Yes.
well.
He is.
You believed both. If you had just met one of them, it's not like you feel like a nerdy guy was pretending to be Superman, or that Superman was trying to fake us out as a nerdy guy. Like, you really believed what he did. And I thought that the best scene that you really saw that was when he's in Lois's apartment and he's about to tell her.
I have the
You see him,
exact
like,
same thing.
standing like this, and then all of a sudden he's like, Lois, I have something to tell you. And it's like, it's just a change of voice, putting his shoulders back, standing up straight, and it was like a different person.
All he does was take off the glasses, he changes his posture, he smiles, and then he realizes, I can't say anything. He says nothing. He's defeated, he's hopeful, he's optimistic, and then he's back into character, and he never says a word. It is one of the most flawless scenes I have ever seen in a film, period.
It's great. It's terrific. And if honestly anybody in the future who wants to play Superman, because I know there's a lot, Superman gets a lot of crap about like glasses being the disguise, but that is a masterclass in how to go from Clark to Kal-El.
I am so happy you brought that up.
Bro, what, that scene?
That scene in particular, because I'm watching it, I'm like, whoa, what is happening right now? It's everything, but there's not a word of dialogue.
Hands down, best scene of the movie. 100%, no question.
Cheers.
And as far just because I brought up this other thing, I saw a very funny thing of celebrities that are generally seen to be very attractive, very beautiful people, and it shows them in geek, stereotypically geek roles where like their hair is messy or they're wearing glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And they do look like different people. So, I mean, I feel like you can, if you do it the way Christopher Reeve did it, you can sell, glasses and messy hair as your disguise and get away with it.
You don't even know if this is me right now.
I don't. I never really do. No. The humor is actually really good in this.
It still holds up.
I don't, as a rule, there are some exceptions to this rule, but as a rule, I don't love 70s movies. I don't love movies that
I do know
feel like they're from the 70s. There are exceptions like Star Wars, Jaws, The Exorcist, like those I feel like transcend the time period.
Yep.
Superman can kind of walk the line sometimes, but I think that, 50, almost 50 years old now. The humor, I like, it still made me laugh. It still was done really well. It wasn't too much. So I like the humor. I love speaking of, I love the little phone booth tease when he is trying to find somewhere to change and it's just the payphone.
Yep.
It was quick, blink and you'll miss it. That was good. Another little throwback, rescuing the cat out of the tree.
Very funny.
Another little just Superman thing. It's like, yeah, he just saved a plane. He just stopped an armed robbery. And then
but he can help Sniffles.
He can also help Sniffles the cat. Also very funny, missile headed to Hackensack, New Jersey, of all random places.
Ayo.
Just was like,
shout out.
Why? What a random place. It's like, well, if I'm going to destroy anything, it's going to be New Jersey.
Yep.
That's fair.
Thanks, Lex.
Lex's hideout is awesome, and I would move in tomorrow. Living in an abandoned subway, you make the bottom floor a whole pool. It's other than it's a little dangerous to maybe get to it. Having to walk the tracks and
sure,
risk getting hit by a train. You hit the wrong button on that little secret door and you get knocked right in front of a train, like that one guy. But
yeah, well,
I think it's pretty cool. I have just two more things, and then you can take it away. The first one is, I thought Lois's death, more so Reeve's reaction to Lois's death, done really well when it could have been done really silly.
Well, I love that they have it in there because our heroine in the modern superhero films never dies. So I liked that it happened, but also as I was watching it, his reaction to it, Cavill actually pays homage to that when he kills Zod in Man of Steel. It's that same grief-ridden, just pure humanity,
rage and grief and frustration and anger and sadness, kind of all mixed into this one like growly yell that just,
and it's not about really, it's really not about who did it better. It's about that they both did it. You know, very similar to like, well, you wear the cape because that's the character. He responds to grief, and this is the way he does it. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, I liked that a lot. And then my final thing is, it is up there, I would say, in the top 10 of film scores. That Superman theme.
It's the music.
So good. That opening theme with the da 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 da.
You know exactly what it is.
And you know what? It's enough so that they've reused it in everything. Everywhere. So, it's like Danny Elfman's Batman theme. It was so well received that they've reused it even in snippets or based on it in further, Batman stories. They did the same thing with the Superman theme. That's how iconic it became and how great it sounded. And also a little tidbit, if you really like this movie and you would like to see the further adventures of Christopher Reeve's version of Superman, it continues in comic book form under the title of Superman 78, and it kind of pairs up with Batman 66 and Wonder Woman 77 also, which continued in comic book form. They all kind of meet up and form a retro Justice League. So you can do that. But that's all my good.
I've got three other things.
All right.
I thought for 1978, the graphics are excellent, particularly in the opening. For 1978, listen to what I said. For 1978, they're great.
I want to disagree, but it will go into my bad. So should I wait, or do you want me to say what I think right now?
You should wait. Put a pin there, and I'll come back to it.
All right.
I thought they were good, and it's very clear that they watched Star Wars. There's a lot of miniature, particularly on Krypton. There's a lot of miniature, small scale versions of these things. They didn't actually make these giant set pieces. Like, they made minis of them and then zoomed in, very similar to how they would with Star Wars. And so it's clear that they were paying attention, which was really cool. I liked that. From an editing perspective as well, just because I do video editing, the color in this movie is excellent. And maybe that's just because I'm so used to muted superhero movies, particularly when it comes to Superman, coming off of Man of Steel, coming off of Justice League in particular. They dumb down the brightness and the vibrance of these colors. Coming back to this, it's like, whoa, there's the suit, and the suit looks great.
Yeah, bright blue, bright red.
Yep. And to that, the last thing, I thought the suit was perfect, and it's not padded. I think
No.
we have become an idolatrous nation focused on the male physique, particularly when it comes to superhero movies. But, it's clear that Reeve is in shape, but they didn't go crazy. Like, it's skin tight, but you're not seeing his abs. His muscles aren't bursting. Like, and that wasn't the point. The point was not to show, wow, he's really a Herculean specimen. It was
right,
that
how much could Clark really hide that if he was that, muscular and Herculean and Greek god looking.
Right. And to that, I feel like Cavill's version of it does blend in, but it's clear that somebody like him would never wear what he's wearing to hide what he has, if that makes sense, right? Like, they go out of their way. Reeve is just wearing clothes that blend in with everybody else. Yeah, he's 6'4", but it's not like, oh my goodness.
But he's just a tall guy. He's not tall and broad and ripped and, in that like huge, comical V shape.
That's it. And I feel like more the 90s, but like this 78 version and then what would become 89's Batman, like nobody was having a shirtless scene and eating chicken and broccoli for 6 months just so they could get that 5-minute shot.
Right. Yeah.
It was just a nice little like, oh, we used to care about the character more than how the character looked, and I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. The 90s comic book kind of changed that with the rippling muscles, and then they tried to tone that down but wanted to keep it a little bit. So yeah,
that's it for my good. Do you have any other?
I have one other that could be bad, but I'm gonna put it with other. My other is that I feel like no one has ever gotten Lois Lane right in accordance to the comic book and other stories written about her. Sure. I don't like any version of Lois Lane that we have seen on TV, on screen, sometimes animation, but I guess because that's more closely connected to comics, they can make her look and make the voice sound the way that it should. But I think Margot Kidder, Kate Boswell, and Amy Adams, and I forget the names of the actresses who have all played it on TV. I think the closest we've come is Terry Hatcher in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman from the 90s.
Okay.
That's probably the closest we've come, but Lois is supposed to be this driven, hungry reporter, but also knows when to be vulnerable, also knows how to be sexy, also knows how to be powerful, also knows how to be like connected to other humans like Jimmy and like Clark and Superman. I just feel like Margot Kidder, I just feel like didn't do it. And it's not her fault. I don't feel like anybody does it right, but that wasn't Lois Lane for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
It could be but again, this movie isn't the only one that has that problem. So
I have two others. I have two others. One of them I know is in your bad, so I'll wait.
Okay.
The first is that flying with Superman love poem dream state thing. Like, I don't know what to do with that.
It went on too long.
It's not good. It's not bad. It's like, it's sort of a sign of the times for the movies, but it doesn't really fit a superhero movie. The reason I'll give it a pass is because it's sort of the first one, but it is so clearly like its own thing. And I'm glad we've never really come back to it. I just didn't know what to do with it.
I think its biggest problem is that it went on too long. I think
Yeah.
that was the issue. My other issue is, and this I do have in my bad, so we can end with
You're going to
this.
talk about the pacing.
No, no, not the pacing.
Oh, no.
No, with that scene in particular, it was too long, but also the physics of her flying
Oh,
don't
yeah, I have that.
don't work. Like the way he's holding her, there's her legs should
No.
not be straight out like that. It just it would have been more fun if he was like carrying her, you know, like in the
No,
like the
it would have been
rescue
more
pose or
fine if
whatever.
his name was Peter Pan, which they
Yeah,
do sort of joke on. But like, no, that's a bad thing. The other thing in my other is just its pacing. It's not a bad thing because, again, first of its time, it needs to develop its character. And it is a very 78 approach to storytelling, which it's not rushed. And I'm battling with like my own attention span and how we have catered movies and shows to the lack and the dwindling of our attention span. So it's quicker shots, it's fast, it's quick cuts. This didn't need to do that because you could sit in a movie for 2 hours and 10 minutes and not feel like, oh my goodness, this is dragging. But it just spends a lot of time in certain shots to establish stuff. And again, it's just noticeable. It's not bad. It's not good.
I think you could have shaved at least 20 to 30 minutes off of this by some tiny shavings, and also the whole beginning could have used some shaving.
Yeah, that did take a little while, but
we'll talk about that.
We'll get to that. Before we do hop into our bad stuff, we've got a word from our sponsor, and so we'll be back in a second.
See ya.
Tired of standing out in a crowd because of your chiseled jawline? Wish you could disappear into a newsroom without anyone saying, "Hey, aren't you the guy who lifted a helicopter yesterday?" Introducing Clark Kent's signature frames, exclusively at Kent Optometry. These aren't just glasses, they're identity erasers. Made with Kryptonian-grade plastic and small-town charm, these specs are scientifically engineered to make you 96% less noticeable, even to the people you work with every day. Perfect for superheroes, secret agents, and anyone dodging group texts. Just slip them on, slouch slightly, mumble a few words, and boom, instant anonymity. And for a limited time, every pair comes with a free subscription to the Daily Planet and the exclusive article, How to Avoid Eye Contact and Questions, written by Clark himself. So visit Kent Optometry today, because sometimes the best way to save the world is to pretend you're some guy from accounting. Kent Optometry. They'll never see you coming because they'll never see you at all.
Very nice. Very, very nice. That was very funny.
I have even been wearing these fake glasses this whole time. Shout out to Kent Optometry.
And no one knew it was you.
And no, what?
Now, I will just say, this is not an accusation, but have you seen the movie version of Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Because they have that in there.
Mm-hmm.
When he tries to hide and they buy the Clark Kent glasses that, you know, make him look mild-mannered that nobody can recognize him.
Yep.
So that was a fun little thing. That was good.
I mean, that's
that.
The whole thing of all of this. It's like, really? Glasses?
But, I mean, we talked about that scene. They work.
Well, not only do they work, I mean, we're talking about a flying alien from space. Well, and you're hung up on the glasses.
A handsome flying alien from space.
I have very few bad things, and they're all petty.
I have many bad things, and some of them are petty.
I'll go first.
Most of them, I think, are pretty. I think they're pretty reasonable.
All right. First of all, nobody can seem to say the word Krypton.
My big thing was actually Marlon Brando. I have that. That's my first thing is Krypton. Stop saying Krypton. It's like
it's not Krypton.
It's like when people, he's like an old Jewish man.
Did you know
like,
he famously,
Spider-Man.
Did you know he famously said to Donner, "Hey, just roll the camera and let's see what happens," even during rehearsals, so that he wouldn't have to do take after take after take. And so a lot of this stuff is first shot And I imagine Krypton is one of those things where he just didn't get corrected, but they went with the first one because he refused to do another take.
It still would have bothered me, but at least have everyone else
Right.
say it too. You know what I
Pull the
mean?
Gal Gadot.
Kalel, no.
Since she can't do an accent, let everybody else do the accent.
Right. Like if everyone else knows how to say it correctly and he doesn't for some reason or refuses to, then just make everybody say it and we'll look at that as like, oh, that was your interpretation of the pronunciation. It's wrong, but whatever.
Yep.
But the fact that he was the only one and it was his home planet and he was like an older adult in it, it's like, come on, that's lazy and annoying.
It's like me trying to say Nosferatu. I struggled with the fact that the movie starts with sequel bait. We got Zod, and he should have come back. I think Man of Steel did this very well, but it's like that made no sense, and it meant nothing in this film. And so you'd have to watch this one to then get the next one, but there was zero setup, and I haven't seen Superman 2 in the longest time, but I imagine it's not like this. The scene where they get banished could have been at the beginning of part 2, and you didn't need it here, but it doesn't really establish that he's a conflicted leader, the only one who understands that we need to save this, and blah, like it just didn't work.
You didn't need it, but I will say that part of the reason that it was done is because they filmed Superman 1 and Superman 2 back to back.
Ah, didn't know that.
Yes, that's what they originally wanted to do, but then Richard Donner got into it so much with the studio that after 75% of Superman 2 was completed, he kind of abandoned the project and they had to re-edit. But that's why they had it in the beginning, was that it was shot as one film that they were releasing in 2 parts that could also stand alone, you know.
Gotcha. And is that why there's a Donner cut?
That's why there's a Donner cut, because it's all of his original footage completed.
Gotcha.
And it's the superior cut also, I will say that.
The path of the hero is not explained at all. Like, why does he head out to go create the Fortress of Solitude just because Jonathan dies? He makes his mom walk 2 miles into an open field just to have this weird conversation with a completely different actor. Like, it makes no sense why he, quote, has to go. How is Lois a paid reporter and not know how to spell anything? Your look is everything. How do they get photos of Superman from the paper? Like, we're looking at all these different photos, like he was 2 feet away and they snapped a shot. Like, how'd they do that?
Well, especially because you see him do all that stuff, all of which is happening in one night, by the way. It's all ridiculous. Right. So there was a camera person at every, you know, tiny and large disaster. But why did we not see any shots of, you know, a photographer there or Jimmy, somebody?
We talked about her flying and how stupid that is. I think Luthor's assumptions are insane and hilarious. He's out of control.
Yeah. He makes a big leap, a big leap right away.
But, you know, that's over the top superhero villain. And he played it well. But as you're listening to him talk, you're like, really? And my last thing, how is Superman not fast enough to stop missiles, but he's fast enough to reverse the polarity of the Earth?
This is the emotion.
Silly Superman.
The emotion.
You can't do that. That's all my bad.
That's it? Oh, I have so much more.
Off you go, Captain.
All right. I feel like to a degree, this movie is too 70s for me. It sits too squarely in the 70s with the style and the aesthetic. It doesn't really work for me. That's just a personal thing. I hate that Lex Luthor is wearing wigs and toupees. He should be bald. He should embrace it. I know he does at the end, but it's just the whole movie he has hair the whole movie, and it annoys me. Uh, Based on what you said, I disagree about the design of everything. I think the design of everything is so dated when it comes to Krypton and when it comes to the Fortress of Solitude. I hate the design of Krypton. I hated it so much. And the fact that this comes a year after Star Wars, after the first Star Wars movie, the effects and the design are so much better a year earlier in a movie that at the time nobody thought was going to go anywhere. Nobody, it wasn't based on any existing franchise. It wasn't based on a
True.
beloved story or anything like that. It was a completely original idea. Even the actors in that were like, well, it's going to be this weird like little space movie. They had no idea it was going to become one of the most successful and life-changing franchises in existence. But this had everything behind it and was just I did not care for the effects. I did not care for the design. I hated Krypton so much. So many crystals. So many crystals.
Krypton crystals.
Didn't like it. Like you were saying, Zod. I don't like the look of Zod. I don't like the look of the Phantom Zone. Any of that was a weird design. I didn't care about Pa Kent. We didn't spend enough time with him or have enough of an impact with him that when he died, it like touched me emotionally at all.
Sure.
But that being said, I think we spent too much time pre-Superman Clark.
Kevin Costner did way better.
Oh, 100% better. But I think that Man of Steel did not feel like we spent too much time with young Clark. This did. I'm
just thinking about it now. I don't have this written down, but what Man of Steel did where this movie didn't is it displaced him and created the emotional angst for a family.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, when Cavill goes off to the Fortress of Solitude to find who he is and he runs into Russell Crowe and all of that, like there's a payoff there where this goes back to like, why is, the path of the hero doesn't make any sense because there was no development of the relationship and there was no need for the orphan, very unclothed child situation, if I may say so.
Okay. So I was talking with, my wife about how to broach that without
this is a Nirvana situation all
without
over
getting
again.
Flagged because when she was watching it with me and when that scene came on she was like, are you gonna put that in the show? And I'm like, it needs to be addressed, but I don't want to get like flagged for anything like that's being seen as inappropriate or anything. But it was so weird and unnecessary, and that kid was too old to be in that scene.
Yep.
If he was a baby, that would be one thing. Nevermind is more excusable because it's a baby. He was like 4. That it was
maybe 6.
That was weird. Didn't like it. No. Uncomfortable.
Moving on.
Every time Jor-El explains something, I was ready to fall asleep.
My son.
Yes, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse on Earth.
Take the cape, leave the cannoli.
Exactly. It was just, yeah. Everything about Lex Luthor's land gaining scheme. Like,
no.
Wrong. No, not liking it. I already said, the physics of Lois flying, a lot of disasters happening in one night. Also, the soldiers.
No.
That is not an okay scene.
No.
That is another scene that's like, whoa.
What in the multiverse is happening?
What? Why? And now, if you don't know the scene, we're not going to discuss why it's not okay, but go watch it and
leave it there.
Tell me you don't feel the same exact way that it gave you the ick.
What's funny is a lot of these things that we're pointing out are like, okay, signs of the times, not a problem. Okay, that didn't age well. And that was just a stupid idea. What's hilarious to me is that this movie is watched every single time Marvel starts a new project. I don't know if you knew that. In the reign of the MCU, the book, which we've talked about on the show, they've said that before every project, the creative team of that film gets together and watches this movie because they hail it as flawless.
Well, they thankfully leave some of these questionable things out.
I like how these two bad things you've said, all you said was the and a very vague noun, and I'm on board.
Yeah.
You haven't had to talk about it.
Well, okay, so I was gonna save this one for the last because it's both funny and horrible, but
yep.
I feel like it kind of goes with the other two. When Superman rescues the cat and gives it to the little girl.
Yeah, like she got hit.
You gotta listen or you'll miss it. But the mom is like, "Don't you lie to me!" And you hear
don't tell lies. Whack.
You hear this? Like, she got beat for that. That is so crazy.
And as a parent, it's like your level of tolerance for that child. Either she had the worst possible day or you're the worst possible parent.
Oh my goodness. I hate to see what punishment that kid is going to get when she actually does something wrong.
Right.
Good Lord.
When the cat doesn't come home.
Superman's suit mid-fall, like when he jumps out the window and he just...
It's nanotech.
Okay, so that's where you can see that the Marvel people watch this.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you can just make a suit appear on somebody over their clothes with no explanation? Let's do that.
We need it to appear. And now.
Why did Miss Tessmacher kiss Superman? That doesn't make any sense. It was stupid.
Well, I just thought I'd get the chance.
Like,
again, that's questionable.
I'm going to let you stay dying a little longer.
Oh, you were vulnerable, so I took advantage of the situation. What?
No consent. No consent. So many things in this movie are just not okay.
There's not one consented kiss in this film. Not one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that maybe Lara and Jor-El might kiss before the end of the world. I guess that
I wasn't paying attention.
But I don't even know that for sure.
Sure.
Okay, the last thing I have... and it is probably the biggest sin of this movie.
Ooh.
That's not how time travel works.
Yes, it is.
You don't reverse the axis of the Earth and run back time. Like,
first of all,
not
it's straight. The world is on a axis.
You're not running back the odometer of a car. Like this.
Yeah, but this is how Barry did it.
No. He ran so fast that he went back in time. If they had Superman fly so fast that he created a timeline, that would have been fine. That's superhero logic. That's fine. The fact that he flew so fast that he started spinning the Earth in the opposite direction, and instead of just, killing everybody on Earth, which is what that would have done.
Right. Nobody's affected by that.
It just went back in time. And the reason that it doesn't work is because, time travel logic is the idea that like a new timeline is created every time you make a decision, because in the new timeline, the opposite happens. So that's why, where the multiverse theory comes from.
Sure.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work because then that old timeline still exists, because again, it's that idea that, now I think this is bad too, but Hulk explains that in the Avengers movie when he's like, if you erase your past, then your past doesn't become your future to go back into the past. So the whole thing doesn't make sense. And I think that ruins the end of it. Either don't kill Lois or let him deal with it, or find another way to go back in time.
But I will always have a cross to wear, and the bolt reminds me that I was there. So give me the strength to fight this test tonight. Because if I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
Did you pull this up while we were talking about this?
Maybe.
Yeah. No.
I would stay for the night. For the night.
for the night.
For the
Just the
night.
night. All right. But no, that's my last thing. That is, I think,
I
the
like it.
biggest egregious sin of this
This is
movie.
egregious.
It is.
Uh,
It's deeply,
there's
it really like offended my, I'm not a writer, like I'm not a creative writer.
sure.
I love movies and I can accept bad things in movies, but I can't accept a movie being hailed as one of the greatest movies of all time, accepted into the film registry of the Library of Congress, and have the ending be that he reversed the polarity of the Earth to turn back time and then fixed it.
This coming from the guy who claims every movie with snow is a Christmas movie.
You're telling me that that doesn't make you think that my point of Christmas movies is a little more believable?
Not at all.
Well, you can
Turn back time.
go kick rocks.
Speaking of kicking rocks, any spiritual things out of this flawless film?
I'm not sure where the correlation is between those two sentences, but I did.
It's called making a
I
jump.
think so. Also, speaking a bit of Ready Player One, because this is featured in that as well, I think one of the most interesting quotes of this movie comes from Lex Luthor, and
Luthor.
it's Luthor, and it's someone could read War and Peace and come away thinking it's a simple adventure story. Others can read the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe.
That's so
And
deep.
the idea behind that line is that it it takes it's what you put into something that will get you the most out of it. So if you're reading War and Peace and you're not putting effort into it, you're going to think what an adventure story and then move on. If you put more thought into reading something that seems mundane, then what you get out of it could be more profound. Now, would it be as profound as a chewing gum wrapper? Probably not. But I think the truth of that is there, and I feel like that's what happens a lot of times with the Bible.
Mm.
The Bible is kind of what you get out of it. It's so easy to misuse it. It's so easy to take it out of context. I think that it's important to read it within the time when it was written and understand that. So it frustrates me sometimes when I hear people say that it promotes these different things. It doesn't really. You have to look at it like any other historical document. You have to look at it within the time that it was written and find the truth. That's read between the lines a little bit. You can make the Bible or anything from the Bible by cherry picking to fit whatever you want your point to be.
Yeah.
And I think that if you've grown up in the church, if you've grown up in Christianity, it's very easy to see that. Like I'm sure you've experienced that. I've definitely experienced that in teachings and in conversation of just people who make it sound like what they want it to. But it's important to look at something with an open mind, just like a chewing gum wrapper. That's how you need to look at the Bible, not in its most simplistic form, but you need to be able to see, what can I derive from this? What truth is this saying to who I am now, to where we are now? Because it's too easy to dismiss it as a story.
Yeah.
It's much harder and takes much more care and what's the word? Much more intent to see what truth can be derived from it. Even if you look at it and you think, I have problems with some of the things that are in that, I get it. I do too. But that doesn't mean that the truth that's in it is any less important or valuable. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So that for me, uh, I wanted to make sure that I went beyond just Superman as a character. And for me, it's, that idea that like, the Bible has some really important things to say. And I think that if you put the effort into studying it, you'll find those truths. if you're willing to find those truths. You have to be open to finding them.
Absolutely. It's awesome. Mine was very different. There's a line from Jor Brando. He says, they can be a great people. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. And I mean, that's just copy paste from biblical narrative, from looking around at our broken humanity, our world. Like we want to be a great people. We want to be a humanity that cares and loves for each other, that considers others better than ourselves, that have the best in mind. And yet it's a wish most of the time. We lack the ability to see beyond ourselves, beyond our situations, and we've got a sin nature that fights at ourselves and those around us all the time. And Jesus in John 8, verse 12 says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but have the light of life in him. And, you know, it's so easy to just be like, well, Jesus is Superman or Superman is Jesus. But there are a lot of parallels. Like he enters a broken world, not just to save it, but to illuminate what we were meant to be. And I think that was what was really interesting to me as I watched this. I mean, Jesus lived and showed us what humanity was designed to be. He was fully present in this world. He was fully available to the needs of others. He was fully connected to God the Father and lived out of that expression. He was sinless, blameless, pure, patient, humble, and he exposed us for how dirty and sinful we truly are. And because of that light on us, we killed him for it. But I think in that example, he becomes not only the way to God, not only the light of the world, as he said, and he showcases our need for a savior, but then he becomes the savior that we need. And so, yeah, we do wish to be a great people, but we lack the light. And that light is ultimately found in Christ.
And in a DC Talk song.
It's actually a Charlie Peacock song that DC Talk covered.
Is it really?
It is.
In the Light?
Yep.
Weird. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But that was good. I think that was definitely a fresh look at the, you know, somewhat overused idea of messianic Superman.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. You can totally say, you know, Jesus is the picture we find within Superman, and that's fine. But there's so much more to it, very similar to our reboot conversation. It's like, can you come at this from another angle? And it was just the way that he phrased, they wish to be a great people, where my humanity was just like, ooh, yeah, that is a felt need. And when he then goes, they only lack the light to show them the way, I was like, oh, now I get it.
There it is. No, that was a great way to come from, and a great, I think, a really great starting point with that quote.
Yeah, and it's a really great
way to pull it together. Is it though?
You want me to go first with this bat rating?
Yeah, go first, because I struggled, and I want to explain. I want to explain my rating.
You're gonna hate me.
Can I guess that you gave it a Keaton? Maybe not a Keaton, a Bale. You did not.
I have to. I absolutely have to. This is a Conroy. It's Superman. It set the stage. It's as cheesy as it should be. It is well-paced. It covers the origin story perfectly. It sets the bar for everything that's come after it. It's made because of the actor. It still holds up. It's a Conroy.
I'm just... You talk about how it's a Conroy. Let me know when you're done. I'm just going to read a little bit because that was offensive.
I'm done. Go ahead. Tell me why it's your Affleck.
That's exactly right.
See, because I'm the better friend. I know you.
It's an Affleck all day. Now, I can't...
Allow me to scroll while you nonsensically explain yourself.
I can't in good conscience give it a Clooney. And I don't think that it's so bad it's good.
No.
And I also don't think it's forgettable because, again, it's set a standard. And I think it's got a lot of history behind it. So our bottom three rankings, none of those really fit.
That's out.
So this was the lowest I could go without feeling like like I was just being like
Like
stubborn about it.
like you have to turn in your nerd card.
Yeah, so I feel like it's okay. It's Reeve is great. He really set the bar high for Superman and for Clark Kent. I think the movie's got a lot of story problems. It's got a lot of this may have gotten a pass back then, but really isn't okay now stuff in it. I don't think the effects I don't think all the effects really hold up. I don't like the design. I don't like the time period. I don't like Lois. I don't like Luthor.
This
So
is
it's
probably the biggest gap with our two ratings.
Yeah, it might be. I'd have to go back on everything we've done so far, but this might be the biggest gap. And the fact that you've rated a DC movie as flawless and I've rated it as low as it can go without being offensive is astounding to me.
I
I'm a
wonder
little
what the
shocked
audience
about it.
thinks.
I do want to know what the audience thinks, but I think that a lot of the audience is going to be on the side of it being, a very high beloved movie because it is for a lot of people, and a lot of people our age and older. I just I
Are
think
you
that
on Team Joey or Team Captain Actually?
actually there are
Actually,
better depictions of Superman, and I think it's almost all of them. Even Superman 2 is a better movie than this one. I think Superman 2
shut
is
your
the
mouth.
superior movie.
But give us
That's
your
one.
comments, your feedback, your snide remarks on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and right here on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the fantastic, the fabulous, and the unrecognizable Sanctum Sanctorum podcast.
Shocker.
Shocker.
And listen, as we close out, remember, kids, even if you think this is a great movie, even if you think this is a bad movie, one thing we can all agree on is it made you believe a man could fly. We'll see you next time.
I thought you were going to say, even if you believe that this is a good movie, it's not.
I almost stopped there, but I wanted to make the ending a little more profound.
Calando.